not on there, but
that's okay. I'm going to let them know that it's ending. The auctions are ending pretty soon, and the case break should be at 8. So
easy.
We are live. As always, thank you so much to everybody that hopped in and is going to hop in here on this live Q&A. Last time you all mentioned that you wanted to do a little bit more of these, so I absolutely am excited to do more of these throughout the season. Jack joining me for this one, helping me proctor, but also Jack, I hope you chime in on everything you want to chime in on here. But thank you everybody for coming in. I know it's a lot of the like familiar faces on these, like Damien, what's up? Mr. Juan, what's up? Alex, also known as Lions, what's up? And thank you for everybody hopping in here and hanging out. We'll pretty much just jump right into it, Jack. And this one I am going to really have right with you here, which is, I think this is the perfect question to start with you being in here. Yeah. Does the Crochet trade make sense for Boston if it doesn't come with an extension? They have Crochet at 25-26, but their best window to compete, with Meyer, Campbell, Anthony probably begins 26-28. Yes, I think so. But, of course, I think it becomes it stings a little bit more if you don't do anything in terms of making a run in the next 2 years. But I think you're hoping you're doing so this year. I mean, the offense wasn't a problem, especially in the second half. And also, if this was the only move that they made, then it wouldn't make sense. But you know that the Red Sox are going to do more things, whether it's signing another free agent, whether it's trading Casas for another arm. They're going to do more. So I think no matter what, it makes sense. Of course, the extension makes it a slam dunk, no-brainer, huge win. Right. But even if something happens, look at what just happened with Juan Soto. It's hard to say that the Yankees made a mistake by trading for him. They got to the World Series. Soto played a big part in that. Crochet you would have for 2 years, and it's instantly, your frontline guy. I think no matter what, it is a win if you're the Red Sox. But of course, the extension would make it a big difference. I don't think Meyer, Campbell, and Anthony are what the Red Sox, they're going to help. Don't get me wrong. They could push them over the top. But this Red Sox team, the offense is good enough as is to win. It's the pitching that I think needs to, make that next step. Of course, Meyer, Campbell, Anthony will help fortify that future moving forward. But I'm curious what you think, Jack.
Yeah. So spoiling tomorrow's Just Baseball show, question 1 in our mailbag episode was essentially, did Boston overpay for Garrett Crochet? And the short answer is no, absolutely not. Frankly, I think the White Sox could have gotten a better package out of this. It's weird. And from the White Sox perspective, I'll just get that out of the way. From the White Sox perspective, the headliner in this deal, quote unquote, and there are 2 top 100 guys that led this in Kyle Teel and Braden Montgomery. If Teel is the headliner, you could make the argument the White Sox 2 best position player prospects are both catchers with an identical big league ETA. And I understand that prospects are assets until they get to the big leagues. But how does that make any sense? That's the headliner.
That was the only wrinkle that didn't make a ton of sense. I understand it probably was a non-starter to get a
Meyer, Anthony, or Campbell.
I thought Meyer, you could have probably pulled that one out.
I thought Meyer and Teel were relatively equal, to be honest.
And Meyer, I'm sure maybe a little bit more valuable, but that's a guy that I just feel like makes way more sense. Where you're looking at Colson Montgomery might end up moving to third base, and Meyer's a good defender at short.
Yeah,
that's the one criticism I would have is I understand you just want to get the best return possible, especially for a player like Crochet, but when it's an upper minors guy that had success in AAA at the end of the year, I'd rather go with the position that I need more in addition to the other prospects that I brought in.
And when I tell you near identical ETAs, I think Teel played 28 games in Worcester and Caro played 26 games in Charlotte. Yeah. They literally identical ETA at the same position. It's crazy.
That said, probably the most fun young catching tandem in baseball.
No doubt.
When they get up, and they're both going to be up together at some point this year. I think the fun part too is that Caro and Teel are both bats that you could plug into the DH spot.
Yeah.
And both I think can provide. I think Caro is trending closer to that 20 to 25 home run power. Teel is 15 to 20, but he has that in the tank as well. Both get on base at a good clip. It's a sound offensive profile from both. And before I forget too, we have a link in the episode description. We're going to be ripping an entire case of Bowman Draft. And it's a really fun checklist. Obviously, we saw this draft class, a lot of college guys, a lot of guys that hit the ground running in pro ball, like a Cam Smith, but even the excitement of Jack Caglione. You have a Bryce Rayner, Connor Griffin. I mean, there's so many fun players. Of course, Travis Bazzana is in this as well. A big portion of the proceeds will go to Joe DiMaggio's Children's Hospital and Conine's Clubhouse, but also just really excited to be able to do this live break on eBay Live. That'll be at 8 o'clock. And if you check out the link in this description here, you will be able to bid on these teams. I think the spots, each of the team spots are going to start to come off the board in the next 10 minutes alphabetically. All price ranges, right? Like you're going to have expensive team spots like a Travis Bazzana and the Guardians, but also some cheaper, spots like the Mariners with Ryan Sloan and stuff like that. You could probably get in there for maybe even less than $100, and it's 30 autos, full case. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'll be ripping the cards, and it's going to be a blast there. So you can check that out in the description, and I'm going to keep talking about that checklist as well. But let's get to another question real quick, or do you want to talk about this Bowman draft checklist first, and then we'll get into more questions?
Well, real quick, a final thought on Crochet. I do think that, even if they don't extend him, it's absolutely worth it because you have to factor in the money for Garrett Crochet. An all-star starter is going to cost about $3 million this year, probably $8 million.
That part's crazy.
So you've got this guy. If you don't extend him, to essentially view it as a 2-year, $11 million contract for an all-star starter and one of the best left-handers in the game. So absolutely worth it. This Bowman checklist is good. And I will say, I am, this, I'm very gun shy when it comes to spending on cards and all of that. Like I'll see, Bowman for $50 at Meijer when I go to the grocery store, and I'm like, no, do I want to do that? I'm not 100% sure. I ran a bid up on the Brewers spot in this break to about $70, but it's so far beyond that now. I can't get in on it, but I was very excited. And like $70 is the most I've ever even entertained bidding on a spot in a break.
And that's the thing is some of these other team spots, like you have a Braylon Payne, who's the first round pick, but then you have
Blake Burke,
who
I think Burke can be a big league first baseman in 2 years
and can absolutely mash. So that's a fun team spot. You have Connor Griffin in there with the Pirates, obviously 5-tool, massive potential. Bryce Rayner with the Tigers. These are all top 100 guys for us. So definitely fun to check out. And when we're doing this break, even if you don't have a spot in, come hang out in the eBay Live, because I'm just going to be talking about these prospects, answering questions similarly in the live chat and doing stuff like that. Thank you, Jacob. I would love it if people didn't keep us as much of a secret.
I prefer to not be a secret.
Yeah, I would but I appreciate that. Thank you very much. This is a good one. What's a projected return for Arenado? I know the money matters a lot. What would you anticipate? I think the name carries a lot of value still.
Mm-hmm.
I do, but at the same time, so does the money. So, but then you just saw what Andres Jimenez went for. And we're talking about glove first guys at third base versus second base. It's pretty comparable. Jimenez is a little bit more elite now defensively, even, which is crazy to say. But just father time. Arenado's still really, really good there at the hot corner, and he's no one freaking Arenado.
Right.
That Jimenez trade, I feel like almost makes me feel like Arenado may bring in a little bit better of a return than people may expect, because the money isn't bad, especially with what we're seeing go out now. What is the exact contract details? Do you have it in front of you?
Yeah, it's essentially 3 for 51, and I'll pull up the year by year. I think it's something like 21 this year, 20 this year, and then it's 18 and 15. Nolan Arenado, is Spot Track loads for me, is making. I've got all these deferrals. Why do I have all these deferrals here? I don't want this. All right, come back to me in a minute.
Oh, and also, Alex, thank you for putting a bid on the Mariners. Honestly, Ryan Sloan can be a monster. Also, our guys at the Marine Layer Pod just had Sloan on the podcast. He looks like he's 15 years old, respectfully, which is great. You love the baby face assassin pitchers that, look at Logan Gilbert, but also just you're seeing how young he is still to be able to have the stuff that he has. I know people don't love pitcher cards, but we're seeing pitcher cards really start to make a bounce back. And that's another part of this that I think is really fun. So absolutely check out some of those team spots. Again, goes to a great cause, and would love to have you guys involved with that. So, what's the price on Arenado?
It's 21 this year, 16 in 2026, and 15 in 2027. So it's essentially 3 for $51 million. So I don't think that's a terrible price for this guy. The way that I'm looking at it is I think that Arenado should be packaged with a Ryan Helsley because I think the cardinal direction does matter. And
But it's kind of
obviously,
like they don't want to move Helsley now. I thought that's what Katie Woo said.
did they not want to move Helsley? I didn't see that
That's
report.
what I thought I saw.
That's lunacy if that's the case. Like, how are you going to accomplish whatever they want to accomplish? And frankly, I have no idea what they want to accomplish. Do they want to stay competitive? The way you do that, I think, is by packaging Arenado with Ryan Helsley and hoping to get a young big leaguer in return.
Yeah.
You don't want like mid-level prospects for Nolan Arenado because the money is a factor. The way that I would look at it is you have Mason Wynn, you have Jordan Walker, you have Ivan Herrera, you have Wilson Contreras for about 4 more years, and you've got Tink Hence, Quinn Matthews. Like, these guys are here. So might as well add a complimentary piece here. If you can get a good pre-arb big leaguer for the tandem of Arenado and Helsley, why not just do it?
I agree. And it's 1 year of Helsley, so I think teams, would be more than happy to take those 2 contracts together. What do you think? Prospect return wise, I imagine either kind of I could see an okay big leaguer going one way and then a couple prospects, or just and prospect value wise, I think a couple 10 to 15 range. I think you could get one back end top 10 guy in an average system, and then a couple, I think like mid, I think 15 to 20 range guys, mid top 30 guys. That would probably make some sense.
I'd say
But
so.
again, sometimes it's surprising. I think the batted ball data is obviously a little bit concerning, but again, I do think the Arenado name, what he brings to the table, I think that's still going to matter.
Yeah.
And at that point, I think the Cardinals, you might as well just hold on to him and see if he can bounce back a little bit more offensively, move him at the deadline. If you're not getting more than that offer in a vacuum.
Yeah, the only thing is I feel like this is the opportunity, at least they feel, to get him off the books. And, if they really value those $21 million this year, why would you pay this guy, 14 before the deadline, that kind of thing?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Any other questions? We got a lot coming in, so I really appreciate
coming in.
Everybody asking these. We just talked about Gage Workman on the call up, where you can go check us breaking down, why he made sense as a Rule 5 pick for the Cubs there. So that was a nice little get potentially there. Let me see. One of the dozens Marlins fan in here. What's the end goal of the Bendix plan? We became a talent turnstile like the Rays. This market needs a real star power for people to show. I don't disagree, but like, how do you get that star power? It's not going to be via free agency. It's going to be continuing to try to acquire young talent via the draft, which unfortunately they're not going to be able to get a top guy here. They'll still get a good player, or through these trades where you really hit big on a prospect return. That's the way you do it. And then you hope to extend the right guy. The Rays, unfortunately, baseball-wise, extended the right guy. Way unforeseen circumstances got in the way there. But even the Rays, it shows like if you have a special talent, you can hold on to that guy.
Yeah,
you got to strike gold though. Otherwise, I think the Marlins trying to cosplay as spenders. We've talked about it a lot. Like if you try to operate like the big market teams but don't have the capital of big market teams, you're always going to be playing from behind. So you need to find a different edge, and the different edge is that churn and burn, unfortunately, cashing in on players when people don't really understand why you're doing it, and continuing to just replenish young talent. If the Marlins perform the way that the Rays do, I do think in Miami, people would actually show up, even if the market is a little bit, or even if the payroll is a little bit lower. And I think they would be able to spend a little bit more. And I think Sherman would be a little bit more invested in the team if he saw some results. But it's very clear, like this organization has not developed talent. And so how do you convince an owner that's already kind of stretched thin to spend when the times that you have spent, and it's not Bendix, it was the previous regime, the times that they have spent, it was atrocious. And, they didn't really have their own talent coming in. Like, I don't defend it. I think they should spend some money when they can, but I also understand why Bendix wants to, or why Sherman would want to see some talent coming through before he decides to invest. Because like, what did paying $17 million for Gene Segura do? It just burned a hole in his pocket,
right,
and ended up just making things difficult financially for them. And deals like that matter. So they got to pick their spots right, unfortunately, and that's just the reality of the situation.
Yeah, and I think you're going to see them operate the way that, Bendix essentially did in Tampa, and the way that, they hired him to do over the next couple of years, and then they'll, deploy elsewhere. But, you also got to remember, like, Jose Fernandez did draw people to the ballpark, and Sandy, like during that Cy Young season, drew people to the ballpark. And I think Yuri Perez is not very far from drawing people to the ballpark. If I like the Tampa equivalent there, because if a Shane McClanahan caliber pitcher was pitching in Miami, people show up because that's a good show. It's
we saw it with Jose, right?
Yeah,
like people showed up. I don't know the Cuban connection, things like that, but I still think if you're a special talent, people will show up.
I think people are going to show up for Sandy Starts Again, and I think Sandy's Beach is coming back, and I think that people are going to show up for the Yuri Perez stuff as well.
Thomas nailed it. There we go. Thank you, Thomas. Katie Wu is always on it. This was December 5th. It's always something that but our plan is to have Helsley as part of the organization. I hope that's just leverage talk because it makes zero sense.
It sounds
also,
like leverage.
Give Thomas a follow. Great stuff. If you want pitching information,
Thomas, your cards are amazing. Incredible. Your pitcher cards, I look at every single one of them.
Yeah, amazing stuff. And again, I'm going to plug it as these auctions start to wind down here. Some really, really fun players in this Bowman draft case. 30 autos, whether it's Bryce Rayner, we got Travis Bazzana, Jack Caglione, a ton of top 100 prospects in this checklist. I think the exact number, if we're talking about top 100 guys, let me pull it up right here. We've got, I think it's 10 top 100 guys in here. Nick Kurtz, of course, as well. Christian Moore also in there. Connor Griffin, Bryce Rayner, Braden Montgomery, who was just traded, Cam Smith, Chase Burns, Hagen Smith. And then guys that are not in the top 100 that are really exciting players to be able to pull. Again, the link is in the episode or in this description here. Carson Bench, Griffin Burkholder of the Phillies, Bench with the Mets, James Tibbs of the Giants, Seaver King of the Nationals, Theo Gillen of the Rays. And proceeds go to Joe DiMaggio Children's Hospital. So would love to get those items bid up a little bit. Would be great.
I think I'm going to get involved on Rockies. $36 right now. Yeah,
you should. What do you think of this? Do y'all value Painter, Miller, and Taiit as untouchable in trade packages unless it's a sure?
I don't think surefire yes matters, to be honest with you. I think Painter is the untouchable one of this trio. I think in terms of untouchable to most available, Painter, like nothing's progressing. Yeah. I think Taiit slots in ahead of Miller, to be honest with you, just because they have Trey Turner for the next decade and they could figure out third base. JT is already looking kind of old. And like Taiit has proven that he could be a future star catcher. So I do think that it goes in terms of untouchable to most available, Painter, Taiit, Aiden Miller.
I agree with that. And it sounds like that's kind of what it was, unless, you know, the Ken Rosenthal discussion, and he put out a great piece, just kind of breaking down the Phillies upping their offer. And it was headlined by Miller and Crawford, and they said a couple lower level guys. I'd imagine that one of those lower level guys, if it's Miller and Crawford, was not Taiit. Otherwise, I think the White Sox may have been a little bit more interested in that. They seem very keen on Painter being in that package. And I'm not comparing Painter to Crochet at all. I don't want to do that. But the point being, I'm not moving Andrew Painter in addition to other prospects when Painter is big league ready, healthy, look the way he did in the Arizona Fall League, and I have him for 6 years, when you're going to get Crochet for 2. Again, Crochet is special, but you're really pushing the chips forward on that. And, you know, I think at that point, I'd rather hold on, see how Painter develops, who is, you know, when healthy, one of the most talented arms we've seen in the minor leagues in a little while. And it's not like it would just be straight up. You'd be adding more. So in that regard, it's tough. I think the only guy that should be quote unquote untouchable is Painter. Unless you were getting maybe even like a Sandy. I think it's you can't justify it off of the year that he just had coming off TJ. Like, I don't really know if there's a trade out there where you can justify moving Painter unless you're getting a star with years of control. And I don't really see any of those guys out there. So you look at the Phillies rotation, a little bit older with the right-handers. This is the next guy that's going to like have the baton passed to him. So I think that's the only guy that's truly untouchable, but I'm with you. Taiit is the clear heir apparent. And when JT is probably starting to run out of gas in 2 years fully, like I know he's slowing down, but in 2 years, like you hope Taiit is ready to be there.
Tait's ready.
Great one from Alex. What's a return for Castillo look like? I saw Boston fans saying Casas for Castillo is blasphemy. It's not blasphemy at all, by the way.
No.
They're treating Castillo like he's some 3-4 starter on a bad deal when he's not. Luis Castillo contract. Just want to make sure I have it exact year.
It's hefty. It's hefty, and I think Seattle would be not entirely opposed to getting out from it.
No, because it would allow them to go make some other moves. If you could address your offense and do that, like that's great.
Yeah.
My only concern is Luis Castillo is not 100% the peak of what Luis Castillo was. Is that fair to say? Like he's
absolutely
quite good, but the strikeout numbers dropped pretty significantly. It's the highest ERA he's had since 2021 when he was with the Reds. So again, still a really good arm, but you're also going to put him now, if you're making this trade, in a much more hitter-friendly environment. I'm interested to see how that all looks. And again, this is not to say that Castillo is not a fantastic arm and would be a great addition to a lot of teams. And I think the fact that he used to get a lot more ground balls, not getting ground balls the same degree, like it's just an interesting wrinkle in this thing. But to your point, Alex, Casas is a fair return. Like I think it's a good start. But if I've always been a big fan of Casas and the bat and what he brings to the table. The years of control at the cost of Casas for Castillo, who's coming off of one of his weaker years, and his cost, I can understand why that may be a little bit steep. And I would rather, if I'm the Red Sox, put together a prospect package, especially when, you still have a lot of guys. Like I would move a Wilyer and some complementary pieces. I don't know if I don't need to move Casas, which the Red Sox don't necessarily need to. I don't think I would in this scenario. I would be reserving Casas. You proposed a Crochet deal. I would be looking to move him for a guy that is, in his 20s, late 20s, that's on the upswing, or just at his peak, versus a guy that, maybe starting to slow down slightly and isn't necessarily cheap. It's not a bad deal, but it's not cheap. $24 million a year through 2028, because it's going to vest. I think you hope it vests. If it doesn't vest, then that means it's probably not a good situation.
Well, if it vests, it's
remember he's got the Tommy John clause.
He's got the TJ clause, but it's also 180 innings in his age 32 season or something, which is what would make it vest. Luis Castillo. I think that's the language on there.
Also, Bowman draft boxes are ridiculous. 1,000+ for super jumbo is disgusting. Yeah, the prices are nuts, and that's why we're hoping they get bid up, because legitimately anything over what we were able to acquire the box for is going to Joe DiMaggio Children's Hospital. So a reminder, and bless them. Let them know in the comments what some of the top cards that you're chasing are out there. Again, the auctions are winding down right now on eBay. D-backs will go first, and then it's just going to go in order from there. But the Red Sox, now you can get a Braden Montgomery, who's now with the White Sox, but you would be pulling a Braden Montgomery there, Cam Caminiti as well with the Braves. Like it's just so wide of so many different fun players that I think you can grab here. But again, Chase Burns is someone that'll fly quite quickly and would be a fun one as well. So keep an eye out for that. Also, Jack Caglione, that it's still only at $217 for a jumbo, super jumbo 30 auto case break. I've been seeing the Caglione spots in a full case break going for $400 or $300, whatever it may be. So still a really good discount there. Christian Moore at $140 and Bazan at $310. Again, if you're not trying to go that crazy, the Rockies are at $36. I think the White Sox are one of the sneakiest spots too.
I just pushed the Rockies up. I just pushed the Rockies to 38. I want to say 39.
I think the White Sox are one of the sneakiest spots here, because you have Hagen Smith at the top, but then you have Caleb Bonnemer, who was a borderline first round talent in the second round here, or third round, that also has autos in here. And then Sam Antonacci, super underrated. Another guy who has autos in this product, really good hit tool. I think the White Sox are one of the more underrated classes here that you could potentially snatch up, and the Mets as well. I love Carson Benj. I wanted to put him in the top 100. It was just a little too ambitious there, but that's a spot that's less than $100 right now. In this description here, go check out the link and bid those up. Would really appreciate it.
Real quick on Luis Castillo, 2028 vests at $25 million if he throws 180 innings in his age 34 season in 2027. Like that's steep in 2027. But if he misses that time of the UCL injury, it becomes a $5 million team option. So that's advantage team that has Castillo. Yeah, I feel like Casas for Castillo straight up is an overpay by Boston, but it's not blasphemy like
It's
you're
not
saying.
blasphemous at all. But
No.
it is a little steep. Thomas, can you explain why Painter's fastball is not tremendously mediocre? I understand that it doesn't have the outrageous characteristics and whatever. He's a tall, big dude that throws gas. And it's high spin those two, so it's going to play up more than I think the TrackMan IVB may imply.
Did you see his follow up from a shape perspective? At the very bottom comment. From a shape perspective, before I get too roasted here. It's like, okay.
Honestly, it is a good point. It is a good point. If you look at the characteristics, it doesn't jump off the page. But I think you have to just also look at how big he is, how loose and easy the delivery is, how hard he throws. And when he's healthy, he's spotting it. And that's where the location, and that's where like the stuff plus side of things, like we're still, and I know we have a location plus and things like that, but we're still trying to figure all that out because like when Painter was 100% healthy, he was pinpointing it at 98, 99 from that height, like with the way that it just flies out of his hand. I think it's sometimes just a little bit more than we can like totally quantify with the data, but I do hear your point on the data. I was a little bit surprised the first time I took a gander at it as well. Cags is a large human being. I agree. And shout out Chinook Seedery. There's no better seats. I can guarantee you that. Code Just Baseball, by the way, for 10% off those seeds. And they are not expensive either. Those auctions are winding down. Be sure to check those out. Let's see. Another fun question. Ooh, Jack, this is all you. This comes from Muhammad.
I needed to get my hat.
Is 8 for 280 too much for Burns? What do you think?
I don't know. What do you think?
What is too much anymore? I don't know.
No, I don't think that's too much. I think
but a
Corbin
second
Burns,
half, Jack. What about a second half?
I don't care. I think Corbin Burns is going to be a $300 million pitcher. I think Kyle Tucker's going to make $450 million. Money's broken. Money is stupid. Baseball's broken right now, and it needs to get fixed. But Corbin Burns, time to capitalize on it before it gets fixed.
In San Francisco, I would be a lot more comfortable giving him that money and that length because that ballpark, like he's gonna eat there. It's the same thing as like Logan Webb. Like I will sleep soundly for the next very long time. And I think if there's one area like where Burns got burned a little bit, no pun intended, was the long ball when he was not totally right. Well, it's going to be a lot easier to mitigate that, right? And in San Francisco. And so I think that's a big side of it. The secondary command wasn't there for him the way that it has been in the past. I think he's going to get that right. He's such a smart pitcher. But, there's a little bit concerned, like how does it age and everything like that? How does the deal age? But I also feel like Burns, one way or another, as he gets older, like that cutter, it's just going to work. And also, like, it was a bit of a slow finish for him, but he looked pretty fresh overall, right? Like the velo dipped a little bit at the end of the season, but it dipped back to what he averaged the year prior. Like he was up most of the year. So I think that's something important to note as well. His velo was up through the start of the season. So I think it's just kind of figuring out how to hone in on everything, because when you're up a tick, your stuff can start to move differently, especially when you're a cut guy. And I think that's exactly what happened with him. So I think being able to just manage that, I'm expecting when he signs, it's going to be a really good year for him next year. And no, I don't think 280 is too much for him. After you see what Fried just got as well. Yeah. I mean, Burns, look, even if he's not a perennial Cy Young contender, the floor is so high with a guy like him. It's, again, the same thing as Logan Webb. Like, even when Logan Webb isn't pitching like a top 10 guy in the game, he's never going to be a problem for you.
Right. I'm totally with you. And Burns, like, to your point, he's going to figure out a way to get outs. And I just think the idea of essentially announcing that you're back if you're San Francisco by signing Burns is very important, and I think a very appealing idea. If you're Buster Posey and frankly, if you're Giants ownership, saying, hey, we think we have the best 1-2 punch of starting pitchers in Major League Baseball after committing $180 million to Willy Adames and $150 to Matt Chapman. So we think that we have maybe the best left side of the infield in Major League Baseball, maybe the best 1-2 punch in Major League Baseball. Like, we're here, we're back, we're the San Francisco Giants. We're not going to hang out at 80 wins moving forward. And I do think the price of that could be $320 million.
Yeah, no, 100%. I agree. One more reminder: the Atlanta Brave, the Diamondback spot's off the board. The Brave spot has one more minute if you want a shot at Cam and Itty.
Wow.
But also, you can get in on the Orioles. There's 3 minutes left there. Red Sox 5 minutes there, still a bargain, and the Cubs are a bargain. Cam Smith. Yeah, I've been seeing those spots go for a ton. It's still under 200. The White Sox spot, as it just was gassing up, still under 100. 9 minutes left on all of those. And again, the link is in the episode description. We got a great one here from Jules. And shout out Jules. I know she's listening all the time between the call up and the Just Baseball show. Appreciate the support, even though you give me a little bit of a hard time for one miss on a Rule 5 eligible guy that was deemed eligible by every outlet. But it's okay, Jules. You're mostly nice to me. What do you think about this? Tucker, Presley, and $6 million to the Orioles for Ryan O'Hearn, Kobe Mayo, Heston Kjerstad, and Griff O'Farrell. Then the Orioles can flip Presley to a team that needs a closer. Rangers, boom. I mean, with the packages that we're seeing thrown out here, it's not crazy. I would never. Here's the other problem. Mike Elias will never do this for 1 year.
Yeah.
That's the problem. I don't think it's a bad proposal given what the asking price reportedly is from the Cubs. And we'll talk about that. I saw some questions on that. Tucker's presumably not going to sign an extension. So he's going to test out free agency as he should. Are you going to give up 6 years of Kobe Mayo and 5+ years of Kjerstad? Kjerstad's I'm not losing sleep over. Mayo is the one that hurts. It would be a plus trade for the Astros, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I think you'd have to take O'Hearn out of this and maybe add in a lower level prospect, and maybe you got a shot. It's just so anti-Mike Elias.
I love Jules's response to this. It's supposed to be fun, not realistic. It broke my brain in the best way. I'm just like, you know what? When you throw out this many names and you've got this much money involved, I'm like, yeah, you know what? Let's just do it. let's create pure baseball chaos. I do love the idea, and I really like the money attached as well, and then flipping Presley because, in a vacuum, sending away Kobe Mayo for 1 year of Kyle Tucker, assuming that he doesn't re-sign with you, is a very hard pill to swallow. Yeah. But you have these moving parts around it as well. I think Kjerstad, why is he still in Baltimore? If he's not going to get a shot, there's no point in him being in Baltimore right now. You should package him. I think that Seattle makes a lot of sense for a Heston Kjerstad. I do think that he could lead a Luis Castillo package if they are hell-bent on moving Luis Castillo, where it's like Kjerstad. I would love to see Seattle get their hands on Chase McDermott and then maybe another. But Kobe Mayo just feels a little too heavy for 1 year of somebody. And granted, a guy that could very well be, a top 5 finisher in MVP voting, could very well be an MVP finalist, but it's Kobe Mayo. That's a top 10 player in all of minor league baseball.
And with the way he pulls the ball in the air in those Crawford boxes, I think he could hit 40
he
there.
Could turn into, better than what we've seen from Bregman over the last 6-7 years.
Yeah.
Craziness.
And I understand that there's more risk. He's a big swinger. I get it, but he's so talented. I'm not going to move him after he struggled.
The Austin Riley comps are real.
Yes.
They're totally real.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm with you 100%. So yeah, I mean, I like the thought though. I like the thought. Who's got the best Bowman collection? Eric by a mile. This
nice.
Guy, follow him on Instagram, Kern's Cards. It's insane what Eric has. Eric has one of the best collections ever. So I'm telling you, check out Kern's Cards if you just want to see some card porn there. It is crazy. But also, yeah, who knows? Maybe you can pull a superfractor out of this case, and I'm sure Eric will be knocking on your door if it's one of the prospects he likes. Like a Braylon Payne could be a fun prospect to pick up here. Again, look at the Brewers spot. I want those. I want Cam Smith. This is a fun one too, Jack, because it's the same conversation. What prospects would you see the Cubs moving in a Tucker deal? Outside of Shaw's or someone else that they should really try to hold on to above others? Adding a prospect on top of Isaac Paredes and Seiya, I get you have to add prospects.
Yeah.
But I unequivocally would not want to add Matt Shaw on top of that.
No, definitely
AC is steep.
So the name that I get hung up on and the name that I may sleep on for a couple of nights if I'm Jed is Cam Smith. I say a clear-cut no to Matt Shaw. I think with your plans for Bellinger becoming more and more clear, I say a clear-cut no to Owen Casey. Anybody else that isn't Cam Smith, I'm saying, yeah, take him. Like if you want Triantos or Kevin Alcantara or even Moises Ballesteros, or honestly, I would entertain Cade Horton being a yes there for a year at Kyle Tucker, especially with the injuries that Horton had. The one that I feel like is the perfect middle ground between the clear-cut no of Casey and Shaw and the yeses of everybody else is Cam Smith. And like the fact that I hang up for a minute there tells me that Jed may just say yes because it's Kyle Tucker.
I love Cam Smith.
I know.
I can understand that, right? I get it. It's just you just traded for Isaac Paredes, who's supposed to be the future at third base. Matt Shaw looks like
Kyle Tucker for Isaac Paredes.
And yeah, it's not going to happen. But
and others.
Yeah, and others. So you can make that happen. But like, if you're moving Paredes, who's the third baseman? Matt Shaw, it looks like he's better off at second base. So Cam Smith seems like the heir apparent at the hot corner, and now he's not going to be. So you'd have to figure that out, and then Kyle Tucker would hit free agency that year. Like you would be going all in on this year. And are the Cubs that close to being a World Series contender? Like that rotation still needs work. Like I would have rather have matched the Crochet package somehow.
Yeah.
Than to do that for 1 year of Tucker, especially when Crochet, you have a chance to extend. Tucker, you don't. I understand they have all lefties, but that doesn't seem to be a problem for the Cubs. And if you have Crochet, I'll figure it out. I'll do something else. Yeah. I'll move one of the lefty pitchers. So I'm with you. Let's see what else we got. That's a good one. Let's see. Any that stick out to you? We got a lot coming in here again. Thank you so much to everybody for asking these questions. Just got the notification that the Tigers spot is going to end in 9 minutes. White Sox spot ends in 1 minute. Still a good bargain here at $99. Again, that's a really good spot for future breaks too. If you're interested in getting in a Bowman draft for future, like that is a team spot that I would be all over if I were you at that price point, because you're getting Hagen Smith, who's going to fly through, and you're getting Bonnemer, Antonacci. They have a lot of players in there. Also the red spot with Mike Sirota on top of Chase Burns, and that's still at 100 as well. It's really, this is a fun Bowman draft is so much fun. I gotta say it's a really good time. Let's get to the next question.
I'm looking at Kern's cards again. Oh my goodness.
What he has is crazy.
Absolutely insane.
This is a fun one. What could the Cubs offer Miami for Luzardo?
Nice hat, fella.
That's his patented hat. Come on.
Oh, I know. I've seen the Twitter stuff. That's a good question. What could the Cubs offer Miami for Luzardo? What do you want?
Do you think the Cubs want another lefty?
Yeah, if it looks like Jesus Luzardo. Like I don't know if they care. I'm with you. I have no idea if they're like,
and he's a totally different lefty than their other lefties. So like the cut ride, he's sink and
like Steele and Shota are very similar in my mind. So now it turns into, can you add a lefty that throws 97, 98? And that's what Luzardo can do when he's healthy. So yeah, I think they're in the business of acquiring the best pitchers possible. And I think they've done a decent job of that. Like Boyd was an interesting allocation of funds, although I know he was really good with Cleveland.
Yeah. Again, just going to him, I think that was where in a vacuum, they just thought it was a good buy low opportunity. But to answer the question, I mean, again, I don't think a Matt Shaw would necessarily need to go given Luzardo being banged up last year. I think the fact that it wasn't an arm issue and was lumbar spine, which seems to be like everybody is having lumbar spine issues and seems to be coming back just fine from it. Yeah. It makes it a little bit less of an issue, but a couple years of Luzardo, I think Casey would have to be one of the headliners there. You want a power bat, go big league ready. think you'd expect Casey to be one of the headliners there. Cam Smith would be another guy. I know the Marlins. I would imagine if the Marlins are trading with the Cubs,
They
I know
want
Cam Smith was on their list, like of one of the like top guys they wanted out of this draft. So I imagine Cam Smith would probably be the guy that they would want, and then it probably wouldn't be much beyond that because of the value that Smith carries.
Cost? I don't know how much more it would cost. Would it cost like a I know this kid Birdsell was awesome. This pitcher, like that feels like somebody that, Cubs could throw in and it's like, hey, look at the numbers.
Yeah, I think it would be a Cam Smith probably leading the way.
Yeah.
Todd, you're the man. Thank you so much for supporting the stream as well. And also, if you want to get in on the break, we'd love to have you in there as well. That link is in the description here. Montgomery boys, how quick do all the Montgomery boys? Let's go through it. Carson Williams should be there. I think with a good spring training could break camp. They probably won't, knowing the Rays. So 2 months in, I think he needs 2 months in Durham, and then he's up there.
Conservatively speaking, all-star break.
Yeah.
I think that's conservative, but I do think that's latest. I would say Memorial Day is a good date to circle, like end of May. I think Carson Williams can be there. Who else? Xavier Isaac.
That's going to be a slower burn.
Slower.
He really started to swing and miss more in Double-A. He's got to work on some things in terms of just like the way he moves in the box to just make some more contact. The approach is good, but he started to get a little bit more aggressive in Double-A. I think that's a 2026 ETA for me. Yeah. He's probably going to spend almost the whole year in double.
Yeah.
Maybe a late push to triple.
Chandler Simpson.
Chandler should be up
right away.
I mean, they're gonna probably roll with Mangum for a little bit and DeLuca in center, and then I think within a month
should be up on the same day.
Yeah,
Memorial Day.
I think yeah, pretty much same. No later than the All-Star break for Chandler Simpson. I feel like, right?
Yeah. I also think Trey Morgan is probably a 2026.
Yeah, I could see a late call up if they're in a pinch.
Yeah,
but I don't see that they're going to be in a pinch necessarily.
And then pitching wise is interesting because like you've got a whole bunch of guys that don't necessarily have top end prospect pedigree. I think the only other guy is Dominic Keegan, who
Keegan. I think Keegan could be up this year.
Yeah, I think Keegan and Danny Jansen could be a very good split back half of this year, and then I think you let Jansen walk. It's hey, appreciate your year of service for us. We're ready for Dominic Keegan.
Exactly. And I think it's a great way to just not have all the eggs in the Keegan basket. Keegan has come along so well as a defender. Yeah. And, I think on top of that, just being able to hit the ball hard like he does, decent field hit. I think he's a really solid, well-rounded catcher. I think he's one of the most underrated catchers in minor league baseball, to be honest. Wow. Look at this Guardian spot is getting up there.
Is it?
415.
Oh my gosh.
For the kids. Come on, bid. I mean, it's Travis Bazzana, baby. Come on.
Look at Bazzana.
Everyone wants Bazzana.
How'd my Rockies bid? How are we doing here? Did the Rockies already close?
I think you're alive over there.
Am I alive?
Dude. Minute left there.
Minute live on the Rockies?
Yeah, minute left on that one. So remaining, just so you know, we got Tigers with 3 minutes left. And we're going to be ripping that tonight. It's a full case, 30 autos. That's Bryce Rayner. We got the Astros. I'm trying to remember who's the Astros auto in this product. But it's only at $26, so like you're gonna get bang for your buck there.
Yeah, I was just outbid. Do I hop in again? There's 90 seconds.
You King.
I can't. Nope.
Royals are still at 217. That's Jack Caglione. Like that's one of the more popular chases in the hobby.
He's Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah, right. The Angels. That's Christian Moore. He'll probably be on the opening day roster. That's still only at 140 with 9 minutes left. 11 minutes left on the Dodgers at just $100. They have the best athlete in the draft, probably. I mean, going with a football stud that just absolutely flies. So, I mean, anytime you have that kind of upside with your draft pick, like Dodgers are always going to be a good spot. Brewers are a great spot, as we talked about. The Twins have Kalen Culpepper, first-round pick. People forget that we nailed that on the mock. Third base / shortstop. I think he might be able to stick it short. Above average field to hit, sneaky pop. Like Culpepper is a guy that I think is very underrated. Again, Benj and the Mets still under $100 as well. That ends in 20 minutes. Yankees end in 22. And then Nick Kurtz, I've been seeing those spots go for 200 plus. And the A's only $125 there for a guy that we know, like Kurtz, we were talking about it. That dude is going to fly through the minor leagues with his feel to hit, his approach, and the power. They've been experimenting with him in corner outfield too a little bit. I love like that idea. If he can even be passable out there, really makes things a little bit easier to push him quickly, especially with that first base situation that we've talked about out there. Patrick, thank you so much for supporting the stream. You're the man. As a friend of Braden Montgomery, do you think Getz tries to pull a Minasian and move him up fast this year? I don't think Getz is like that. And I think that's a good thing because Braden Montgomery is a special talent. Bat speed wise, I mean, up there with anybody. Going through the video again last night, like he has elite bat speed, but he's a switch hitter. I think there's some swing and miss on secondary. Like he hit like 450 against fastballs, but swing and miss against secondaries, shine through a little bit against, better competition happens with the, some of the top power bats in college.
Yeah.
And, it could get a little expansive at times against some of the better competition. Like that's a guy that he's coming off an injury too. Let him just any new organization now after just probably getting acclimated to the Red Sox organization. Take his time, like take your time with him. No reason to rush. This guy has 40 home run upside if it all comes together. Like I don't think they rush him and they shouldn't. And I think there's even less of a desire to rush him because you want, as Chris Getz, like you want to show that you did well on this return. Yeah. And you don't want to rush a guy to the big leagues where he doesn't look good. And then all of a sudden, people are going to start to question that return a little bit. And you don't want that to happen either. Clearly, that's been a little bit of a concern for Getz, why he was so careful with all of that. But I love that this info too. Went to high school with Braden, never seen someone work as hard as him. Dude lived in the cages. Well, apparently he found out he was traded in the cage. So That makes sense. Absolutely makes sense.
And was he in New York? Because I saw he was on MLB Network today, like the day after he got traded. It was like,
that's wild.
I was in the cage. I was doing this. I was like, oh,
that's wild.
Did you fly out to New York?
Maybe he wouldn't be trained? That's interesting.
I have no idea.
Do they have like an auxiliary studio somewhere?
No, he was with Vasgersian and Harold Reynolds.
I know you'll wax some poetic on this.
Yeah.
Ortiz moved for the guards. They needed an arm. And I mean, he's going to slot into that rotation. I think be able to help anchor it on the back end. And I loved that move for them. I mean, to be able to just immediately, they turned Andres Jimenez into a starting pitcher for them this year that at worst is going to be a 4 or 5. I think, can be better than that. You've seen him up close and personal. A guy that was just picked in the 3rd round of this draft who also has autos in this product, I think in the Pirate spot, and Josh Hartle. And then also a funky lefty in Michael Kennedy, who had some really good numbers at the lower levels as well. Like, I mean, they made out great, the guards. By the way, though, I love the Horwitz fit for the Pirates. Like, they needed a first baseman. I love it. He could
so much better than paying Anthony Rizzo.
Oh, my gosh.
So much better.
Pay somebody else, please. If he can platoon with help me.
Billy Cook.
Billy Cook crushes lefties. Horwitz, you don't want to face lefties. That's one of those sneaky platoons that I could give you an 800 OPS. But Ortiz to the guards. Tell me why you love it, Jack.
You said back end?
I think worst case back end.
Yeah, worst case.
That's what I said.
I didn't hear worst case. I just heard he can give you some reassurance on the back end. I was like, back end? We were talking about this on tomorrow's mailbag show. Like, he's the 2nd best starter on the Guardians. Like, I'm taking Luis Ortiz over Gavin Williams next year with what Williams 2024 looked like with the elbow issue off the top of the year. And then, when he came back, he was not the Gavin Williams that we saw in 2023. So it's Bibee as the opening day starter. And then I think Luis Ortiz is right there. Apparently Ortiz was a sponge when learning pitching with Aroldis Chapman because Ortiz started the year in the bullpen. It's been a weird bit for Luis Ortiz. 2022, all of a sudden he was throwing 102 miles an hour in AAA, and then he got a brief, big league taste at the end of the year, and we're like, whoa. And then he backed up those ticks that you're talking about, Frederick. And, it was 94, 95, and it was just brutal. So he came into 2024 like, okay, who's going to survive the DFA period? Is it going to be Luis Ortiz or Roansy Contreras? They both were essentially fighting an uphill battle to stay on the roster. And Ortiz was so good out of the bullpen at the beginning of the year. They DFA Roansy. And then Ortiz is so good as a spot starter. And down the stretch, he was better than Mitch Keller. He was better than Jared Jones. Like, he was the 2nd best starting pitcher after that Skeens guy for the Pirates. So they're getting a guy that has a heavy, heavy sinker, a slider that is very good when it's on, And I'm with you. If he regains 96, 97, I mean, we're looking at a 1-2 punch of Bobby and Luis Ortiz and hoping that Gavin Williams bounces back as being like a drastic improvement from what they ran out this year. And then you get Bieber back around the All-Star break. Like, dude, we're cooking with gas all of a sudden.
You know the pen's going to be good. Also, we got like 45 seconds here on the Jack Caglione spot. Like, this is going to be a bargain potentially here for a guy that we're talking about it offensively. I hope they don't do the two-way thing. And I'm not trying to like disincentivize people to bid on it because I know people want a two-way star kind of thing, and that's why he's become like the biggest chase in the hobby, at least in this product. But like, if he just focuses on hitting, Cags can hit you like 50 home runs if it all comes together between the bat to ball that I think is severely undersold, the raw power, which is 80. And it's the big issue is the approach. If he focuses on just hitting, I think the approach can come along a little bit further. We got 23 seconds left here. It's up to 250 for Joe DiMaggio Children's Hospital. Come on now. It's at 2:55, 10 seconds. See who gets in there. But someone's going to come in at the last minute. Ooh, Ned Flanders.
Wow, Ned.
Well, mid and small market. And also, thank you so much for the support. Thank you. I really, really appreciate that. Do mid and small market teams ever be able? Why can I read right now? Will mid and small market teams ever be able to pay for a free agent starting pitcher again? Should this change how the draft is structured? Seems like these teams need more picks. What's interesting is we already have a system in place for that, right? Where these smaller market teams and mid-market teams get compensation picks based on the CBA market size evaluation, which they never tell us the information on how they actually do that. They just put it in the CBA that these are the markets in order. I agree. Like there needs to be a little bit more something done, but I also think that I think there's a lot of incentive already for these like teams to spend. We already have revenue sharing. They already get comp picks. They already are doing well. The RSN thing threw a wrench in this whole thing because I could be pounding the table and I would be firing off if it weren't for the RSN thing because that actually has some validity to it, obviously. The second the TV rights things gets figured out and we know what's coming in, there is no excuse for these smaller and mid-market teams not to spend. I'm not saying that they're going to be able to compete on $300 million deals, but the A's, like we just saw, teams should be able to go get 70, 80, 90, $100 million pitchers. Like what we just saw the Mets do last offseason. Every mid-market team should be able to do that. Go get a Severino, go get a Manaea. You might not nail it that way every single time, but a lot of these teams are afraid to even go, 20 million on 1 year or anything like that. Like that's a joke to me.
They were both 13? Were they both 1 year, $13 million?
They were both 1 year, 13.
Every single team in Major League Baseball should be able to pay two guys 1 year for $13 million.
Yeah.
Every single one. I'm totally with you.
But teams look at it and they're like, if he's not good for us at 13 million, we're screwed. And that's just ridiculous. So it's not just the $300 million edge that big market teams have now. Big market teams now have the ability to take a chance and miss on a $13 million bounce back guy because these smaller market teams aren't willing to roll the dice there. And that's where I think the issue lies. You have revenue sharing. You have so much money coming in. Like you can afford to miss on a $13 million reclamation project pitcher. And owners that say anything otherwise are just outright crying poor and lying. But again, this RSN thing makes it a little bit more complicated. I do think there's some validity obviously to that. But that's the thing that sucks is like it just gave them another reason to be able to cry poor and they didn't need one. And the owners, that is.
It's also just like, it's totally beyond my pay grade, but we're going to get to RSN uniformity at some point, somewhat soon, it sounds like. And I know Rob Manfred has hopes in place of, Major League Baseball operating essentially every single RSN that we have and owning the rights to every local telecast. At that point, I don't know how revenue sharing is affected there, but it should be able to somewhat mimic what the NBA has. And it's not apples to apples because the NBA just has to pay less players, has to pay fewer players. But at the end of the day, man, like New Orleans this year, the Pelicans have total money allocated to their roster at $185 million. Why can they do that? It's not like viewership is running circles around it. The NBA's viewership is
down 40%.
It's down 40%. So it's like, you can't tell me that it's just the gate that gives New Orleans the opportunity to spend $185 million. Like
when they can never get
Wizards,
more than 18,000 people in an arena anyways. Like when you're sellout
Exactly.
Saturdays, like you're getting 30, 40, even if you're, again, I know some teams are not. I mean, that's because you stink. Like,
right.
put a better product on the field, people might show up. Yeah, I'm with you. Like I've always thought about that, and I understand.
It's
and like
amazing.
these contracts that these guys are getting,
the active payroll for the Detroit. Yeah, it's nuts. The active payroll for the Detroit Pistons as it stands right now is $128 million.
No one goes to those games.
How can we not get there to the point where like every organization in Major League Baseball can have an $130 million payroll? And no, the answer is probably not salary cap and salary floor. I don't think it is. But every organization in the NBA can afford a max guy, several mid-level guys, and like build around that, man. I mean, there are a lot of guys making stupid money. And I'm not saying that, every player should be making $15 million a year in Major League Baseball, but you should be able to afford 5 or 6 of those guys on a 26-man roster. So once we get...
Oh, I lose you for a sec?
Yeah, maybe. Where'd you lose me?
And once we get
to television uniformity, I think we're going to get pretty close.
Yeah, I agree. Hey, thank you, Gabe. I saw our guys at Chinook also said thank you. I missed my PT today. I missed my physical therapy today. I realized it mid-episode with Jack and had like a mini meltdown about it because I'm really eager to get this thing right. I got the Conine charity golf tournament in a month and a half that I was told I have no chance at being ready for by PT. So I just got to grind harder, right? You just got to get myself right there. But thank you, Gabe. I appreciate it. It's nice to be out of that gargantuan sling. People were asking me like, what's in the bag? I'm like, what bag? There's no bag, but I guess it looks like I have like a little like Merce attached to the sling there.
Because it has to push off your arm. Like
there's
that cushion that pushes it off your arm.
I went through TSA and he's like, you got to open the bag. I'm like, there is no bag. He's like, you got to open the bag. I'm like, what
it's
bag?
Foam.
Like I can't open I can't move. So yeah, that was a process.
No, that's when you just start yelling at TSA to the point where they detain you.
Yeah, that always goes well. Devon Best
always.
did that. Dolphins legend. Johnny loves. Thank you for the support, Johnny.
Nice last name.
So I've got a lot of pushback for saying that I think Agustin Ramirez can develop into a passable catcher. This guy's an athlete, man, and he has been grinding every single day this offseason behind the dish, like with some of the better catching coaches. I think he's actually was working with one of the Marlins newer catching coaches there too. He stole like 20 plus bags the last like couple years. He is a good athlete. And some scouts I've talked to that I respect, and he's polarizing. Some scouts say no chance because they saw how much he struggled. There were stretches where he legitimately could not catch the baseball. I think a lot of it was mental, to be honest, because I saw the stretches where he's moving well. He looks okay. You see the athleticism and you think he can come together. I just think there's too much talent there. He's young. He hasn't had nearly as many reps. I keep emphasizing how few professional games this guy has played. He has not played that many professional games, period. He has flown through the minor leagues because of how well he has swung it. But like, just to put it in perspective here, and catching at the lower levels way easier than catching at the upper levels. This is a breakout prospect. This is a guy that spent 2019 in the Dominican Summer League. 2020 didn't play. No one did. 2021 in the rookie league at the complex. 2022 at the complex as well, where he started to break out. And then 2023 was the first year off the complex. He climbed from low A to high A to double A in that year alone. So that guy was supposed to try to get acclimated to pitching at those levels and then just working with staffs. And you're expecting him to refine his defense in that process. That's pretty hard. And then 2024 starts the year in double A, puts up a 942 OPS, then gets traded and, plays 29 games in triple A, then gets traded and goes over to the Marlins where he put up an 805 OPS as a 22-year-old in triple A. Like, give the guy some time. He was 22 for 24 in stolen base attempts, by the way, which is nuts. This dude has caught 223 professional games. Like, that is so few.
Yeah.
Like for a kid to develop, I think It's going to take time. He might be a little bit of a rough catcher out of the gate. Look at what William Contreras was able to do. He was so iffy behind the dish that the Braves had him in left field and traded him.
Playing left. Yeah.
And that's one of the smartest front offices in baseball. I mean, Alex Anthopoulos, that's a rare miss from him. But that also just shows you the athleticism and the right coaches. You can get guys right. There's certain things that you can't overcome. And I don't think Agustin Ramirez has anything you totally can't overcome.
Thank you for giving me the Agustin Ramirez William Contreras comp. I'm never going to forget it moving forward.
Yes.
You said
it was a comp.
Guy. They're the same guy, right?
You're the same exact player.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Make a quote card now.
Give it 5 years. Agustin Ramirez, best catcher in baseball.
I mean, Contreras is going to be somewhere else in a couple years. So
no doubt.
We'll see. Don't sleep on Jefferson Caro, who will be healthy already. He was playing some games in like extended. I don't know what they call it. Like the games that they play after the season, continuation camp, whatever they call it. Mets spot has 2 minutes left. I'm gonna bid on it because I want Carson Bench.
Yeah. Did I tell you my Rockies debacle? I popped in again with like 45 seconds left, and I upped the bid to about $42. Sold for $80. I was like, wait,
holy crap!
How did it more than double in that time? But somebody pushed it so far beyond where I was comfortable. And am I going to regret it when a Condon auto gets pulled? Probably. But you know what?
You're going to regret it when we get the Veen variation card. And
keep your eyes peeled for future breaks with Just Baseball, because I'm going to be buying in on Veen and like only Veen.
Colby, what is the Mets spot say it goes for on my sheet over there? Because again, I think that's one of the best like steals in this. Yeah, it's $160 spot. It's still at $130 right now, so pretty good little bargain there. Let's see another question here. Do we want to talk Jared Jones?
Yeah.
What do you think of this, Jack?
Did we talk about this yesterday?
No, we didn't talk. Did you talk about it with Peter maybe?
Yeah, I don't know. I might have just been texting about it. I was texting about it with a bunch.
Yeah, I know you hate this.
Why would you deprive yourself of the opportunity to run out Skeens, Jones, and Bubba Chandler?
Because this is the new thing to do, is trade pitching for hitting instead of your prospects, right? You can't move prospects. Although they did just move several prospects for hitting. So
I saw, but none of them are Jared Jones. No disrespect to Josh Hartle, but you don't throw 100 from a unicorn slot, essentially. I think Lance Brzdowski did a great job on MLB Network breaking this down. He essentially said the only fastball profile that's comparable is Spencer Strider. Yeah. You have a Spencer Strider fastball, and I know that Jones struggled a little bit, and he was dealing with that lat issue back half of last year. But what you saw at the beginning of the year should have you backflipping. It should have you drooling if you are a.
You saw how we pushed him up on the top 100 list before he debuted. I mean, that was a guy that we always were super high on, and it wasn't just because you were getting live looks and texting me every time, like, dude, look at what Jones is doing. Obviously, that helped, but just the sheer numbers, the data, the athleticism on the mound, like it is Strider-esque in a lot of ways. And again, it's like it's a Strider light. But when you are in that conversation of an outlier, like,
come on, stick with it. It makes zero sense to me. The other report that went hand in hand with that, essentially the same sentence in the Post Gazette, and those guys do awesome work, Noah Hiles and Andrew Destin. The other player that went hand in hand with Jared Jones was Mitch Keller, and that I feel like is a fair thing to move, especially with the extension. Like, that's an opportunity to cut payroll. That guy has not been good in the second half of the last 2 seasons now, but he's thrown to an all-star ability in the first half of back-to-back seasons at this point. I think if they get the right pitch for Mitch Keller, they should absolutely jump on that.
Yeah.
But Jared Jones, like, that's a package that we haven't seen for a young pitcher. Like, he has the chance to be a 2, and they've got Skeens as an ace. They have Bubba as a future 2, and they have Jones as a possible 2 as well.
And God forbid the injury thing continues to be a trend with Jones. If you put that dude in the bullpen he would be one of the best.
He's Mason
closers.
Miller.
Yeah, he would be like adjacent to Mason Miller. It would be
Yeah.
it would be scary. It'd be a couple ticks lower, and then but with better characteristics, which would just be game over.
Yeah.
We are seeing more of these fly off the board here. Yankees are up next, so hopefully very handsome Peter wins that one. 2 minutes there. Again, Nick Kurtz still on the board at $130, and it's not just Nick Kurtz. Josh Kuroda-Grauer had a great debut. That's another interesting player to be able to add. The Phillies also might be one of the most, and that's 5 minutes left on the Phillies, might be one of the most sneaky spots too, because they went pretty much with 2 first-round picks. Got Dante Nori, but then Griffin Burkholder, who that was the guy that I think they wanted more than anybody. They used the savings on Nori to get Burkholder. Crazy speed power combination to dream on there. But then also you still have Connor Griffin on the board with the Pirates that is going to end in 7 minutes as well. Reminder that portion of the proceeds go to Joe DiMaggio Children's Hospital in Conine's clubhouse there. If you're Boston, are you content finding saves from Hendricks, Chapman, Slayton, or are you pursuing someone like Tanner Scott or Devin Williams? Devin for sure. I mean, Devin would all of a sudden make this bullpen really intriguing.
Yep.
Because Hendricks, when healthy, I love the idea of a Hendricks working back in the 7th and 8th and, when needed, can close some games out. I think Slayton is a stud. We've talked about that. And Chapman, not a guy that you want in the 9th, but definitely still can strike him out with the best of them. It's like a 40% K rate over the last 2 years almost.
Yeah.
I don't see that. I think the Red Sox still need to address starting pitching more to the point that I wouldn't pay Tanner Scott.
Yeah.
I think other teams are it makes more sense for a Royals when Peter and I talked about that, like to go pay a Tanner Scott. Devin makes a lot of sense. It's just after the trade that you just made, you're not trading any of your blue chip guys. So you're going to really thin out the tier 2 of your prospects, that you have there. That could be okay though. Or is that a spot where they don't need an outfielder? So it would be prospects. Would you be okay with parting with more prospects for Devin Williams when at the end of the day, he's a reliever that, what is it, one more year after this one? Or is he?
No,
it's
just this year. Helsley's going to be.
You're going to have to outbid the Dodgers, who clearly, like Ken Rosenthal said, are all in there. I don't know if that makes the most sense for the Red Sox. I think you could just go. I would try to trade for Helsley. I agree.
I'm calling a bluff on John Mozeliak. Like, that language makes me think that he's bluffing, and he's
I agree.
just trying
it's
to
too
position.
weird.
Yeah,
It's the same. I mean, you also saw the Red Sox front office say, "I don't know where all these Casas trade rumors are coming from. He can hit 40. We really like him." Well, I wonder where they're coming from. You dangle him every day.
Every day.
So there's a lot of front office speak.
Another name that I think Boston should be checking in on via trade, and he wouldn't cost really anything, is Camilo Doval from San Francisco, because
That'd be a good flyer to take.
He's fully on the market, and you create strength in numbers. I do think Chapman can pitch the 9th. I think,
and Hendricks, if he's healthy and look good, he can pitch the 9th. And I do think Slayton can pitch. I wouldn't rely on one of them, but by committee here, when the Giants were one of the best bullpens in Major League Baseball, they had like 8 guys with like 5+ saves.
Yep.
I think that closer by committee situation with the Red Sox probably makes the most sense.
Yeah.
So I'm with you. I think that is a great way to approach it.
Yeah.
We'll do a few more of these questions. Oh, wow. I thank you, Mr. Flaherty. Look at him holding that trophy. Look at that guy.
Who is
First time, long time. You're a big fan of the show. I love you, Pete. This is one of the best in the biz.
How do you know he goes by Pete?
That's a great point. I don't know. That trophy, that was the best summer of my life. No doubt about it.
Nice.
I mean, Pete helped put together a banger squad that year. That was a lot of fun. A lot of big leaguers. A lot of big leaguers on that team. Nikki G. Let's see what else we got. Anything? Oh, here. I think there's a fun one. I don't know. So the PPI side of things makes it like almost a slam dunk to do it. You get a little closer to the screen there.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm trying to see this photo from King Crochet 45. Do you see?
His
photo is literally It's a crochet edit that maybe like the Red Sox put out or something. I was just trying to see it.
King Crochet 45, baby.
Yeah.
Yankees just ended. Ooh, the Athletics ended. What did that go for? Wow. Whoever got the A's got a bargain. 182 for the Nick Kurtz spot. That's
Wow.
pretty nice.
Not bad.
104 still for the Philly spot. Do you think the PPI is enough here for the Red Sox to roll out Anthony to start the year? Like we talked about, I still think there's some things he needs to refine to be fully ready for the big league level. But we've mentioned it, like you can shelter him from lefties out of the gate and then ease him in. And as you ease him in, you know, he just has to be on the opening day roster. Obviously, if he's up there, he's playing, but it doesn't mean that he has to play 6 of the, you know, all every day, essentially. Like he could take a day or 2 off when it's a tough left-handed pitcher and you can deploy him off the bench and things like that. But the outfield situation is kind of crowded, right? Because that's why I almost think you got to move Wilyer, because I think the median outcome of Roman Anthony's rookie season is like what Wilyer Abreu did last year.
Like 780 OPS and good defense and right.
Maybe the defense isn't quite as good, so the WAR is slightly below, but the defense, he's a good center fielder. Like I think it would be really solid defense and right. I think it might be a little bit overly bullish with how much guys have struggled maybe when they're first getting up, but I think the 60th percentile outcome then would be that Wilyer Abreu season. And if you're getting a PPI pick, you cash in Wilyer for pitching. Like, I don't understand how Wilyer plus some prospects can't intrigue the Mariners enough to pull something off there and get Castillo or another arm. And then you start Roman. If Roman struggles, you have so many contingency plans. You know, if you do ultimately have to send him back to AAA, which, you know, I think would be quite surprising given the approach and how hard he hits the baseball. He needs to hit it in the air a little bit more, but still, all you would have to do is, again, Rafaela in center, Duran would play a corner. Yoshida can always go back out there. I know he's not great out there, but I know he wants to play out there. He can always go back out there. Like Ref Snyder can hit the short side of the platoon. Like they've got enough dudes that like it wouldn't set them up bad. Are the Pirates about to come off the board? Connor Griffin, maybe arguably the highest, as high of a ceiling as anybody in this draft, is about to come off the board in 1 minute here. What does it normally go for, Cole? Oh my gosh, it normally goes for 350. What's at 203 right now? So that's a bargain and a half. I don't know. What do you think? Like with the Red Sox situation, I wouldn't want to rush him either, but the PPI side of things, it's wide open with Caminero is not rookie eligible. It's going to be Job. It's going to be, and pitchers, you know, automatic edge to the hitter.
It's an uphill battle. Yep.
And they might not even roll out Job right away either in Detroit. Scott Harris has kind of said he's got to earn it.
Yeah.
What do we think?
The other competition aside from Job is Mayo, but we'll see if Mayo has a clear path to playing time in 2025, at least right away. Jason Dominguez is another one, and Dominguez clearly has a clear path to playing time.
Yeah.
And aside from that, like it might be teammate Christian Campbell if Campbell makes the opening day roster.
Yeah.
I think it's worth it, but I also think it's entirely dependent on whether or not Wilyer Abreu is a Red Sox going into opening day. It's one of those weird situations where I think the Red Sox essentially view it as we're content with Wilyer being our right fielder on opening day, but we're also content giving Roman that spot on opening day and taking the shot at the PPI pick.
Yeah.
Because if Wilyer's on the team, you can justify Roman being in AAA for a month and a half, 2 months, and that'll essentially eliminate him from Rookie of the Year, contention, which in turn saves you that extra year of service.
Yes, exactly. So, if he's going to be in the minors, you might as well have him be in the minors.
You might as well have him there for 2 months and essentially eliminate him. Like Pirates got burned bad because Skeens was as good. Like, don't forget, Skeens came up after that full year of service time was, there to be accumulated. And what do you get for winning Rookie of the Year? You get a full year of service time. So they got killed because they didn't get the pick, and Skeens got his full year of service time. I think they could justify it more so than the Pirates with Skeens having Roman Anthony in Worcester for 2 months, 3 months.
I agree with you. And it worked out for the Pirates because the priority was, right, make sure he's healthy, comfortable, and rolled out well.
Yeah.
And the amount of money that they brought in revenue wise, and every time he pitched and everything like that, it made it worth it, no doubt about it. But yeah, it did screw them on the PPI pick side of things, and it's that kind of tough middle ground spot. But what's interesting is like Anthony hits lefties really well too. So like if he's up there, it might just make sense to have him playing every day. So it's going to be fascinating. I think he makes it even more of a no-brainer to dangle Willier and just go do it. Wow, Mariners skyrocketed to 71. So is this really going to happen? Are they really going to trade Cease? Like, I know the Padres are listening on everybody because the RSN thing with them too.
Yeah.
Like, what do you think?
No, with Musgrove out for the year, I think they'd be very silly to move Dylan Cease.
It would need to be like a Willier plus a haul that is really difficult to say no to.
Now, having said that, the Red Sox just grabbing a whole bunch of former White Sox, like obviously doing the sale thing, but having Giolito, Crochet, and Cease and that
crazy strat
would turn me into the Joker. It really would.
And they go out and win it all.
Yeah, I mean, dude,
they
like
bring Eloy on for the final push. They bring Moncada back.
Dude, like, oh God, it would kill me. It actually would turn me into the Joker. What's up, Krabs?
Yeah, what's up, Krabs? How we doing, brother? Actually, dude, Austin Gauthier might be one of the more underrated because he's in such a good system.
Yeah.
This is a really solid utility guy. Like,
yeah,
he doesn't chase. So he's gonna walk. He walks at a 14% clip. He doesn't hit the ball too hard and he puts it on the ground a little bit too much, but he makes plenty of contact, hits lefties pretty well. Like, this is a really solid high floor. I think he's gonna be a big leaguer, like, and fill a bench role well. Like, he played left, he played second. I think they moved him around a little bit to the left side of the infield when needed. I think a little third base. I think he could be a solid high floor bench piece. I don't know if it'll be with the Dodgers, but that's also a player that, like, if the Dodgers are making a trade, that's a great like third piece to get, along in the package.
Sure.
Like we saw them dangle Trey Sweeney to go get, a Jack Flaherty along with Tyron Lorenzo. Yeah, honestly, he could have been a candidate to get picked in the Rule 5 if he was eligible. Like, it makes sense, but appreciate you, Krabs. Great stuff as always. I hope you're doing well. Hope to see you at All-Star Week next year, or this coming year as well. Atlanta's a great spot. Alex Freeland's rocketing up MILB rankings. Real product, the Dodgers system. Have you done much of an Alex Freeland dive, Jack?
No, I viewed him and Shea Whitcomb as kind of my Spider-Man meme guys, even though I know that they're pretty different.
Yeah.
But I just viewed them as guys where it's like, you're a little older, that like you don't have any prospect pedigree, and then all of a sudden you pop out this year and really, really ball. And I think they both turn themselves into, legit big league infield options. So yeah. I haven't really done the dive too much on Alex Freeland, but I do know that the numbers were really darn good in the upper levels this year.
He's a piece that I think a lot of teams would be interested in. I also think he's a guy that definitely benefits. Like, there's certain hitters that I would pause a little bit more on in terms of maybe being disproportionately benefiting from the PCL environment and even the Texas League at times. Like, his EVs are above average, slightly above. He hits the ball in the air pretty consistently from both sides of the plate. But I think those numbers really popped given the environment. He also has a really good approach, though. So the high floor there. He made some swing adjustments, too, that I dove into. I don't remember the exact specifics of it, but I do remember seeing a tangible change in the setup from both sides of the plate and his timing mechanism, and that resulted in better swing decisions and more contact. I still think the hit tool is average at best, but then he hedges that with plus plate discipline, hitting the ball harder than he ever has. I think the adjustment was actually helping him, hit the ball harder, period. And a 47% hard hit rate is pretty impressive. So that does kind of help spell some of the concern about being, benefiting in the environment. Here's the interesting thing is I think he's a better option than Gavin Lux tomorrow. So just putting that out there, because he can actually play shortstop. He hits the ball harder than Lux, and he has a better approach than Lux, and he's a switch hitter. But he's also not a guy that the Dodgers, the defending champs, are going to roll out the shortstop right away. All of a sudden, we're going to protect Mookie. Nope, Mookie's playing short. We run that cycle every single offseason. It drives me nuts. But Freeland is a good insurance policy there. But also, I think he could be a great trade piece as well. I think he's a fringe top 100 guy.
Really?
And he broke out like he was 22 last season, and to do what he did in the upper levels, the swing decisions really hammer home. When you're a switch hitter that's chasing at a 15% clip, with 47% hard hit rate, like it's hard to ignore that. I will say he did slow down a little bit at the end of the year, and AAA was a little bit more difficult for him. He just missed for us, but like, you know, I can understand why he's flying up the industry rankings and things like that. And I don't think that it's because of the Dodgers. I think he's definitely earned that in a vacuum.
Yeah.
A few more. Also, Jack, you don't need to hang on the whole time if you want to go, tap out. I don't know how much you got.
You're good. Auction ends in what, 9 minutes?
Yeah. Oh, another one just came off the board. And I would love to have all you in there with us. We're going to keep answering. So if we didn't get to your questions, like 50 seconds here on the Tampa Bay Rays. Theo Gillen is arguably also one of the most electric athletes in the draft as well. I thought we've had him as a top 30 draft prospect, flies, pretty advanced field to hit. Injuries were the only reason why he probably wasn't a top 10 pick, but the Rays, they go for the upside here, and he has monster upside as a middle infield piece. And that spot is still just at $70. So Theo Gillen, 20 seconds left. Definitely a good one to bid on there if you want a chance at a premium athlete in a system that develops talent quite well. Still have the Rangers with 2 minutes left. We've got the Blue Jays. That's Trey Savage with 4 minutes left, only at $40. And then the Nationals with Seaver King. I mean, some of the best EVs, some of the better power speed combination in the draft. That's the last one, and that's still only at $100 as well. So still some good ones on the board as we wrap up the auction here. A few more questions here. Let's see. Jackson Joe making the opening day roster. He should.
He very well should.
I think Scott Harris wanted to light a fire under him a little bit with the comments, like, he's got to earn it kind of thing. But
like, does he need any more fire?
I'm not, absolutely not. And as we talked about, like you saw it when he threw in the playoffs and everything like that. Like, probably not just because he's so good. Would you say he's one of your favorite call-up guests just because of between the pitching mind and the confidence, but also like in like a humble way at the same time? Like it was a really fun conversation for a guy that knows what he is extremely good at.
Yeah.
That he talks about and converses about it. It's just like a very honest, it was one of my favorite conversations that we've had. And that's why he's become a recurring guest on the show.
Yeah. I think he knows who he is and he knows like where he lies in baseball right now, but he also like doesn't take himself too seriously, which is a blend that you really want, where it's like, I know who I am. I can tap into that motivation and I can tap into that, like, I'm the dude type thing whenever you want. But he also is like a very down to earth person that understands pitching and is willing to like, push and push and push to, continue to build, his prospect intrigue and also his big league capabilities. So, you've got a guy that has, I think, the right perspective to be a number one starter in Major League Baseball.
100%. And then the athleticism, there's no question about that either. So it's definitely a guy that I think should be on the opening day roster. And especially with, again, how we're talking about how wide open it is in terms of potentially being able to win the Rookie of the Year. I mean, that's a guy that pitching in Comerica, if the hitters aren't doing their side of things, he could easily give you a 3 ERA and give you 150, 160 innings, and could be a guy that wins it, with the right season.
For sure.
See if there's any others we missed here. A lot of awesome questions again. Thank you so much for everybody hanging out. I also encourage you to just hang out on the eBay Live and just see what we open up here. It's 30 autos, so it's going to be some fun stuff here. This is a good one. Who do you think the most big league ready guy is from the draft last year?
Christian Moore. I don't know. Bazana?
I think Bazana would be the initial answer, but I think there was some things that he could improve, being able to handle breaking balls. He swings his ass off every time. And when you swing really, really hard, sometimes you lose some of that adjustability in the zone, and the adjustability in the zone is what made him so elite in college. So I think he's still trying to find that balance.
Yeah. I will say, I don't think Chase Burns is going to change much at all in the minor leagues. Like,
no, it's going to be more just about sequencing and, just tightening up the shapes a little bit.
And how long does sequencing take in the minor leagues? Like, I really don't think that's something you frankly need to figure out too much in the minor leagues. I think you can do that at the
Especially
big league
with
level.
The Hunter Green template already there.
Yeah, exactly. So like Hagen Smith, I feel like there are some, other things that, you can iron out and do the build up thing. Like Burns is already, I feel like Burns was essentially his finished product at Wake, and it was, pitcher 1 in the draft or pitcher 1B, whatever it may be. And I do feel like that guy, he needs to see like the least amount of development. I feel like he's ready to go.
I think Hagen Smith, though, too, like the fastball is so unique. The slider is so gross. And he started to mix in a cutter and the changeup. Like, even the 2 pitches, he can just ride those to the big leagues. And, the White Sox just may not want to waste bullets, down in the minor league. So it can make a lot of sense there. One of the last ones here. The last auctions are wrapping up as well. Again, thank you so much, everyone, for hanging out with us. And we're going to continue to do more of these lives throughout the off season. Last spot is the Nationals, by the way. That's Seaver King. I believe Loma Vita's in there.
Is Loma Vita in there?
I think so. Regardless, Seaver King, I mean, upside wise, and 90th percentile of like 110 or 109, and plus wheels, and either it's going to be a shortstop or center field, like premium positions. Like, he's a stud. One rule that you'd like to see put in baseball.
I don't know. I feel like everybody has an answer to this.
I never really do. Like
alternating 2-point conversions after the 12th inning.
Yeah, that one's brutal. I honestly,
it's horrible. I hate it. I don't know. Like, I feel like my firm answer here would be a spending floor. Like, I would love to see a salary floor in baseball. I don't know if we'll ever get that. I don't think we'll ever get that.
Owners would never allow.
Owners would never say yes to a floor, just like players would never say yes to a cap. Like, that's just.
I would say trading draft picks. You can trade compensation round picks, but I think you should be able to trade top 5 round picks or something like that. I could understand how it gets convoluted, but especially now that we've cut the draft to 20 rounds, like you should be able to trade picks at least within the top 5 rounds.
I love the idea of, hey, like you get our first round pick in 2 years. Like
the only problem with that is you could abuse it, and then you would have such a ridiculous bonus pool to work with that you could then run laps in the draft. So you could, I think, trade draft picks, but then a cap of like, you can't have a bonus pool above X amount.
Isn't there a stipend rule in the NBA? Like you can't trade first round picks in back-to-back years or something like that?
It's not unprecedented. Nationals just went off the board. Let's see. Again, come hang out. It's gonna be ripping these cards. This is kind of my case break debut. I've broke a little bit, but this is like actual like full-on break debut here. So I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, that would probably be mine. I would like to see you be able to trade, and you can just have you could have some sort of rule where you can't have more than X amount of picks and something similar like the Sypian rule, which I learned only because of 2K when I would try to trade all of my picks. I would try to trade them all the time for my franchise for players, and they're like, you can't trade anymore. I agree. Seaver King might be one of the most elite baseball names of all time.
It's really good.
It's up there. It's absolutely up there. Let Peter answer this one in the chat. I know he likes it. He's like, I don't care about 8 years. That's
here you go. We spent too much on him.
That's a problem for 35-year-old Peter, essentially. Like that's essentially what it is. That'll do it. Jack, thanks for hanging out and doing this with me as well. These are fun, and it's just so cool to see everybody come out here and ask questions and support and just hang out. It's really been cool to see the community, the baseball community, and engage with you all. And like, this is definitely something we want to continue to do. And thanks for making it worthwhile for us,
For sure.
And really making it something that we can get excited about doing continuously. So we will be doing it more through the off season. It doesn't always have to be like hey, check out this eBay Live. Definitely going to do it before these eBay Lives, so you guys can come in and tell you a little bit about what we're ripping, because there's going to be Bowman Chrome in the future, stuff like that. I want to tell you what's in the product, all that good stuff, and it's a lot of fun, and the money goes to charity. But again, it is so much fun being able to answer your questions. Thank you all for checking out the Just Baseball show and checking out the website. We have writers doing an amazing job out over there. Check out justbaseball.com. We had writers at the winter meetings. We got people putting out everything you need to know for this offseason. And all that good stuff, and then get you ready for the regular season as well. Would love to have you hang out on the eBay Live, though. I think it's going to be a blast. I have a feeling we're going to pull something kind of wild. They also have outside of the checklist, John Elway has cards in there, and then Sadaharu O has cards in these
Nice.
books. Would be
Yeah.
really sick to pull one of those. So we'll see what happens. But as always, thank you guys for hanging out. We'll be doing more of these, so stay tuned on social. Subscribe to the newsletter, then you'll never miss one of these either. And the newsletter, Elijah's crushing that as well.
Yep.
And have a great weekend. We will talk to you guys next week.